call our meeting to order. Let us stand by invocation for our pledge of allegiance. To our wonderful Creator, we thank you for such a beautiful day. We thank you for this opportunity to assemble here together. And most of all, we thank you for this day too of celebration of love. Love in all of its forms. For we know that love really covers a multitude of inconformity. So we welcome you into this meeting, that the things that we do, the things that we say, would represent what is best for the city and for this city to be a better neighbor to all. We welcome you in this meeting to have your way on this day. We give you all the honor and the praise and the gratitude. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, I would like to call your attention that we do have two addendums that has been requested to add to our agenda. The first one is introduction of a resolution number 2022-08, a resolution to support autism awareness and recognize all for autism for their contribution into the city of Florence. And the second one is also a resolution with really 087, I should have read first, but it's a introduction of a resolution number 2022-07, a resolution authorizing the city, the mayor and city council to execute a community development block grant mitigation CDBG MIT subrecipient award between the city of Florence and the South Carolina Office of Resiliency to fund infrastructure, improve the projects that will mitigate the impact of future disasters. If there's no objection, we can add these two resolutions to our agenda. If there's no objection, we can automatic. So if there's none, these two items will be added to our agenda. And as we proceed forward, I do want to recognize that we do have a representative from All for Autism here. So when we proceed, if there's no objection from the council, after we have our appearance before the council, if there's no objection, I would like for the representative to come forward so they can receive the resolution and depart from today. Okay, so if there's no objection, we will add the resolution number 2022-08 following our public appearance. All right, so at this time we have our minutes from January the 10th, 2022 from our regular meeting. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of receiving the minutes, please say so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. If not, we'll get ready to enter into our appearances before council. First, we have before us Ms. Betty Williams, who is a resident. She will be speaking to us today in reference to abandoned homes in District 1. And I would ask that all representatives, when you come forward, would you please hold all communication from type 5 to 10 minutes. So do we have Ms. Betty Williamson present? Ms. Williamson, please come forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
City Councilman. I basically want to come here today just to give appreciation to Councilman Schofield. He's the councilman for my district, and this has been going on a while, and I didn't know what to do, so I found out who was my councilman, and I was told who to contact, and I did. And he directed me in the correct direction that I need to come to city council and talk with everyone and let them know that I live right next door to an abandoned house. And I found out that y'all have funds for the abandoned houses, but they told me that I would be on the agenda. So I just want to say anything that I can get, assistance, direction, I would appreciate it. It's very hard. There's a lot of abandoned houses. But I do feel, and I believe in the city council. I believe in law. And if you do it right, you can get it done right. So I don't have any complaint other than be shown the right direction from everyone. And anytime that you want to talk to me, I'm free to talk. And that's all I have to say today. I'm a little nervous, but you know,
It's okay.
it's fine because, you know, it's just, I just believe in doing things the right way. And I do feel that coming here today has got me on the right path.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to thank William so much. He's been so helpful in our district. And if you don't have knowledge, you will go down the wrong road. I want to thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson, thank you for coming before us today, and I do want to acknowledge that one of the homes that you sent us the information about,
Yes, ma'am.
that is actually our codes department has a listing of homes that are scheduled for potential demolition. But as you know, the process is one that when it comes to homes, we do have to reach out to the homeowners and get permission to do the demolition. But the council did last month pass a resolution in order to have the funding available for this. But once again, it's a legal process that we have to go through and get that permission.
Correct.
But thank you so much for coming today, and we appreciate the fact that being a community member, you came forward.
Yes.
Really,
And
thank you.
I was glad to send the pictures, so I didn't have to go through all the changes. But by seeing the pictures, I do know the councilman do take it into consideration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a great day too.
Yes, Mayor.
Recognize this Councilwoman Florence.
I'm glad the mayor said that, and maybe you can elaborate on it some more, because there are those that in the community, they think because we have this money that we're just going to tear people's houses down. We can't by law, and so it is rumored that we're just going to tear people's houses down. I want to make sure we understand that is not what this money is for. I've heard that several times being said, and I want to make sure that you are clear that we cannot tear anybody's house down that we don't own. Okay? That's it.
All right. So at this time, to appear before council, we have Ms. Stephanie Bosch, Assistant Director of the Florence County Economic Development Partnership. And we're going to ask that she come forward. She will provide an update on the Florence County Economic Development Partnership. Ms. Bosch.
If I may, just so you can hear me. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Stephanie Bosch. I am the Assistant Director at Florence County Economic Development Partnership. Really, the role of our organization is to work to recruit new industry to Florence County, as well as support the existing industry that we have here. And I know at the last council meeting, Councilman Jabali gave a brief update. I had the honor of speaking with the Business Development Committee in one of their committee meetings, and so we just wanted to provide an update for all of City Council, so you know the work that we're doing, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have about the good news we've got. So in 2021, we were very fortunate to announce right under 700 jobs that have been created in our community in the next 5 years. In addition to that commitment of 700 new jobs, $97 million of new capital investment was announced in Florence County. We're really excited because this reflects the expansion of two major industries in the county: QVC distribution facility as well as Performance Food Service. Announced significant expansions. QVC added 360 new jobs. They are actually going to be the new return center for all of the East Coast for QVC. And Performance Food Service is adding additional warehousing space, and they created 150 new jobs in the coming years for the community. Additionally, our electric cooperatives, both Santee Electric and PD Electric, committed to additional new investment in infrastructure throughout the county. And then we had one new industry that is here and actually just moved into their new building, Innovative Construction Group. They're a subsidiary of Pulte Homes, which is a national home builder you may be familiar with. They are located in the 200,000 square foot speculative building that's out in the PD Commerce Park. So that's the same industrial park where Reese Foods is, Performance Food Services, now Niagara Bottling. And so ICG, Innovative Construction Group, has hired their plant manager and HR manager. They're actively recruiting for those positions, and we're excited to welcome them in the Florence business community. So I just wanted to kind of give that update about all of the new jobs that will be created. We anticipate more in 2022, and we're really excited about those as well. The city of Florence really plays a key role in economic development on multiple fronts. So the city is the water and wastewater provider for the majority of the industrial parks that my organization markets. And without the city's really forward thinking when it comes to your water and wastewater facilities, we would have a much more difficult time recruiting industry. Part of how we were able to recruit Niagara Bottling was because of the excess capacity available and the skilled team you have here at the city to talk about the water and wastewater really resources that are here and available to those industries that choose to locate. So I want to thank you all for that. I thank Michael Hemingway in particular, and I know he hates it when I do it, but he is such a huge asset to the city, and anytime we need help with industrial prospects, he is ready to go and answer any questions. So that's one of the key roles the city plays. Another key role is really the revitalization of downtown Florence, the Downtown Development Corporation that you all have and sponsor. You know, when we have prospects that are coming to decide if they want to recruit or if they want to locate their industry in the community, they're not just looking at, do we have a site available? Do we have a building available? Those are important, and we need the utilities too, but they want to know, you know, can my leadership live here? What do the schools look like? What is there to do on the weekends? What are the restaurants? And being able to bring prospects into downtown Florence, put them up at one of the hotels downtown, really entertain them, you know, and show the growth, especially in the last decade of downtown Florence. It makes a big impact because it shows that Florence is investing in itself. So I want to thank you all for your support of really the water and sewer and obviously downtown revitalization. I understand that, I think at the last council meeting, y'all also approved funding to go towards the Gateway project. That's something that's important to us as well, because when a new industry flies in to the city of Florence and we pick them up from the Florence airport, that is their first impression of the community. And so really improving that gateway corridor is going to be huge for us in our efforts to recruit new industry. I also wanted to just let you all know that Florence County Council in February of 2020 approved the issuance of a $22 million bond specifically for economic development. You may have heard about this before, but the county is taking an active effort to invest in different industrial sites really throughout all of Florence, because we need sites that are ready for industry to locate, not just taking them out and showing trees. We need timbered property that's done all due diligence, and we make sure there's no environmental issues or anything like that. Shovel-ready sites is what we call it. And so we have really been actively investing in various sites throughout the county. Multiple are going to be served by the city of Florence with water and sewer, so I just wanted to make you all aware of that. If you ever want to take a tour and see those sites, I'm happy to do that as well. Load you in the minivan and we'll drive around Florence. So those are really the updates I wanted to share with you all today. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just want to thank you again for all you do to support economic development in Florence.
Well, Ms. Balch, I would like to thank you, first of all, for coming before the council today to give the update. And I do want to acknowledge that everything that you say is so important, especially with all the organizations that are involved to make this happen. And when I listen to you speak about the corridor and the things that happened over the last 10 years, I would like to say that is Florence growing together and the organizations working together. The old statement is that the city has the water, but the county has the land. And the fact that the the partnership is able to do spec buildings, spec sites. That's really important. Just as you said, that is what the companies are looking for now. And with the things happening downtown, that's excellent, with the Florence Downtown Development Corporation as well. And with the discussion that you had, the City-County Joint Commission just met and talked about the corridor improvements, as well as talking about preparing these spec sites. So first of all, just thank you and the partnership for all that y'all are doing, because what's so important is that you just don't plan for today. You look for the future, which is important for the Florence, and I say Florence, that's city and county, in order to be those visionaries. So thank you for all that you do and all the members of the partnership. We appreciate it. At this time, I recognize the pro tem.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming. Boy, what you gave us such a great update at our last business development committee meeting that we had, that I just begged you to come and to give it, so that our whole community, not only just council, because obviously everybody on council, it's critical to all of us, but also for our community at large, because I don't think everybody understands how we all work together and how important it is and kind of how it all happens. Sometimes how the sausage gets made can sometimes be a little bit confusing. So you're coming and sharing to the Business Development Committee and now to council and our community is so important, and we just thank you for that. But it is these partnerships, and that's, you know, that's who you are, the Florence County Economic Development Partnership. But it's the partnerships, and we've already made reference to Michael Hemingway and what a great job he does, and we certainly appreciate your recognizing that as well. But the city and water and wastewater, those are critical infrastructure pieces. And I'll just say for myself personally, I'm very much looking forward to these new sites and how we as a city can work with the county towards the development of these sites, and what assistance we can provide and how we can work in a partnership format to see about getting some more of the, industrial development. Because, and one of the things you did not mention here, but you did mention earlier, and I would appreciate if you would make reference, it's the high wage jobs. And that what we're looking to bring to Florence is not just jobs,
Right.
but high paying jobs.
Right.
So that people in our community can have livable wages and won't have to work three jobs in order to make ends meet. And so if you don't mind just briefly touching on that, because even Buc-ee's is what starts at $15 an hour.
They've upped it to 18.
Pardon?
They've upped it to 18.
So that's their beginning wage, is $18 an hour for this, and they're going to employ how many people there?
When they're fully staffed, 170.
170 at this massive convenience store. I don't know what else to call it. 100 gas travel center. It's 100 gas pumps and all, but that's going to start at $18 an hour. So that's a huge influence and impact on Florence County, in addition to these other ones that you mentioned. So if you don't mind touching on that part of it, because I think that's something that's very important for everyone here.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously we want to recruit high-paying jobs. We want, like Councilman Bailey said, you know, our citizens to have jobs with great benefits and high wages. The Florence County average hourly wage hovers around $20 an hour. It changes every year. Some of that is skewed by the big healthcare presence that we have in the county. But our goal at the partnership is we want to create jobs that pay at or above that county average. And so, you know, part of that is ensuring the companies that we're working with and vet that they are paying good wages, and not only that they're paying high wages, but that they provide health insurance and other benefits for their employees. So that is something that we look at seriously, not just the quantity of the jobs, the number of jobs, but really the quality of the jobs as well. That's really key to our organization too. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
President or council member, have any comments? If not, Ms. Bosch, once again, thank you for coming before us, but most of all, thank you for all that you're doing. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So at this time, we will have appearing before council, Mr. James Kennedy, who is a resident here in Florence, to speak to the council on housing concerns.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I was sitting back there thinking, I've been attending council meeting when it was all white council. You can measure how many years that's been. If you want to reflect to the minutes, while I was sitting there, a young man came in from the jail and his face was swollen up like this. And the jailer said, his face, he having bad toothache, what'd he do? One of our council persons, I won't call his name, he said, hell, he in jail, carry him back and lock him up. So at that time I sprung up like a chicken. And but anyway, he left that council meeting that day and went down to Dr. Williams and got his tooth pulled. And the whole concept behind an inmate being arrested and in jail and having medical practice changed that very day in Florence, South Carolina. Also part of that history. Another moment for Black History in Florence. But my purpose of being here is talk about housing. I understood correctly approximately $500,000 coming in to tear down properties that is vacant. That'll be a good investment to a young lady. I respect that. I understand. If I had a regular house beside me, I would want to move. But these houses speak of character. And when I say character, I mean where we came from as a community. If you look at Savannah or Charleston, you go in those old areas, that's the character of that community. In Florence, South Carolina, we had domestic workers, men working in mills and sawwood, cutting wood, trees in forests, and working at the planters, making lumber and coal yards. Few tradesmen in carpentry, but that was the best they could do. What you see there was the best that they could do. And to tear down a lot of houses would be destroying our identity, where we came from, and who we are, and what we are about. I'm into construction, and my concept is, as a former city councilman brother, he's down on John Street. I see Sammy went in and cut bushes down from around the house, and he turned it into something. I would have said tear it down. But my thing is to go in and remodel these houses, put windows and shingles and siding, all these things created homes. And you're talking about an affordable house, then we have affordable houses. But tearing it down high as lumber is and labor, folks can't afford to build these houses from out the ground, not in my community that I come from. You know, we talk about 50 cents on the water bill. You know, I remember when my cousin went away to college, his mother handed him a Kennedy 50 cents. She said, baby, that's all mama got. And he started crying, and she started crying. That's the community we come from. We can't forget where we come from. That's our roots. Don't destroy it. Develop it. Fix those houses up where folks can afford to buy them, anyway from $50,000 to $90,000. But if you tear one down, I guarantee you will not put it up for that kind of price. So table that. I hear about all the development and the way Florence is growing. Hell, how about the folks spending all their life? We ain't asked you to give us nothing. Right after the Civil War and after slavery, Europeans are still coming in this country. And they say, go west. They didn't tell us to go west and claim no land. We stayed in the same spot, sharecropping, working for nothing, and that's what we developed. Don't tear it down. That's our roots. Martin Luther King said it best. Somebody pull me up by the boot splash. Well, you ain't never gave me no boots to put on my feet. We fought for everything we got. Give me some boots, and yeah, I'd have pulled them up, but we didn't do it that way. We had to fight. You wouldn't have been on that council if it wouldn't have started off a single-member district. We had to fight for that. Don't get the big head and destroy our community. Please don't. 50 Cent is important in my neighborhood.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that you remain because I think that some of the council did want to speak with you, but I do want to say thank you, first of all, for coming before us today. And thank you for the service you've provided over the years. And know that all the things that you've stated are things that has been taking place and discussed with the council as well as with the community. Many of the efforts that you're speaking of are already in progress, a joint combination of new home development, but also with new homes being revitalized. And I think that if you kind of drive through your city, one of the good things about it, not only since the city's placed some new homes there, we have people coming back into the community who are taking homes that are salvageable and rehabilitating. So the ones that you see that may be on the demolition are homes that are surpassed that financially is not feasible to redo. But understand that we do want to have what we call infill housing, building houses on these empty lots so families can come back in. And yes, affordable. And as you know right now, for everyone, the supplies are high because of supply and demand issues. This is related to COVID. So please understand, everything that you're saying, we do take to heart, and it has been considered, and this council will work to be sure that we can do the infills, but make sure they are affordable.
Do
so
me a
people can
favor.
come in there. Yes, sir.
So everyone you want to tear down, call me. I'll probably buy them and fix them up. I promise you that.
Well,
okay?
I can't give you that
Give me
promise.
a list of them.
I can't, but if you want a list now, you can actually get a list from the city.
Okay,
But no, I
if
can't
you plan on
promise you
tearing
to
them
call
down,
you.
I'll buy them. I
Okay.
promise you that, every one of them.
Well, there's a list available, and you can actually call and you can receive it. Before you leave, though, Councilmember,
I'm serious, who?
yeah, when you call up here, you can call the codes department, or you can call up to our city manager officer, and they will assist you. And before you depart, Councilmember Cole, I believe, wanted to make a statement as well.
Yes, I said I was gonna be quiet, but I kind of want to get into that. I know, big man. But what I would say is this: we talked about, we were talking about the 500,000 for abandoned homes. We skipping over the part that this council a couple months ago made. We doubled the most we ever did for community development. The most ever was 3 years, $3 million over 5 years. We did $6 million over 5 years. So we got an effort here to try to sustain our communities. It takes a while to do that, right? Downtown, it didn't happen overnight. In addition to it, we went on a bus tour in our neighborhoods, and the biggest issue we heard, big man, was abandoned homes. Now, well, we're not saying we're gonna just come and take someone's property. That's illegal to do that, right? But what we did have was, we got the foresight along and to try to put something together to where if it's heirs property, we're trying to reach out to the property owners and see what we can do to help them get rid of it. Because it's bad now. I hate to say it. It's bad. It's some homes, big man, you cannot go and go fix it. It's just not right. You can't do it. So that's the case, man, to help our communities become more sustainable, to help our communities to regain that, the image that it once had. Some of those houses got to go, and we can't take it from them. They have to agree to.
So I'm gonna do
not
something with them. I understand that.
Basically, we helping them, giving them assistance that they can't essentially pay for. Basically, it's needed. Prime example, Miss Betty Williamson. I'm sorry. I wish we would have put the picture of the house that's next to her. There's no way you fixing that house. That house, it needs to be.
There's a few like that.
All right, and that's the thing. So that we made the conscious decision as council to try to help out those in the community. It's needed, and I get you. There are some homes that need to be rehabbed, and we allocated money to try to help that process be in place. But the abandoned homes is two separate things. It's the worst homes of the worst of the worst. Right, they're out there and they need to be demolished.
I'm a bad man and I can do miracles with houses, but I seen some need to be torn down.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
You know.
So.
as I spoke to the mayor earlier about the same thing, and actually, right in the beginning of COVID, I couldn't get in the complex and find out who had owned what, and that's what slowed my process down. But now it's clearing up, and then I saw this came up, and I said we got to have another direction. You know, we have to consider everybody in this game, because that's where we at now. We can't overlook nobody, because this city is made up of everybody from every ethnic group across the world. That's what Florence, South Carolina looks like now.
Is it about 200 homes on about identified? You know, off the top of your head, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
There's about 200 homes.
Well,
That's
and one thing I want to say, you know, no offense to nobody, but see, in the South, we own about 20% of the land. When I say we, I'm talking about black folks. Now we own right at 1%. So, you know, I'm tired of seeing other investors coming in our community and we paying them rent and getting them rich. I want to turn that around. I'm just being honest.
Gotcha.
Ain't nothing in my heart but love, but I don't want to see that happen.
I think and this is my last comment on it, if we were to help someone get their house demolished, I don't think at that point we would still own the property. The person who still owns the property will still own that property. So I don't think we're not taking nothing from no one. It's a help, right? And it's helping the community as a whole. So I want to dispel that myth that we're taking from people. We're not. We're actually trying to help out a situation that's been plaguing our communities for a long time. It's time to do something.
Yeah. But I had a house on Branch Street. I don't want y'all to get angry. I tried to fix my homestead up. And Doug Floyd, I don't mind calling his name because he did this, came to my house when I was remodeling it. Tell your daddy got to tear all that down. My little boy, he's about that high. And what are you talking about? He can't build out of 2x6s, those slow judges. My little boy said, man, them ain't no 2x6s. My daddy know what he doing. My wife told me the story. Say, my daddy know what he doing. Them 2x12s. And sure enough, they was 2x12s. But apparently this man grew so much anger with my son through me that he took my building permit. So a whole lot of things has to be straightened out and led in the right direction in this community. Because some of it ain't fair. You know? So we got to trim the whole fat off the edge of the meat from all angles and move forward.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kennedy.
you.
Councilwoman Barnes wanted to make a statement with you. Mr. Kennedy, if you could come back, please. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
I thank you for coming forward, but I did want to ditto what they were saying. You're hearing a lot of us saying partnership. It is going to take us, but it is also going to have to take the community. What we are doing is not an easy task. And it is not that we are saying that we are doing this by ourselves. We are doing this because we want all of Florence to be a better place. Every decision that is made is never about just a fly-by-night decision. Like the mayor said, we take into consideration everybody. And we will continue to do that. But we must move forward. We are getting complaints from the community, the people who live within the community, and they are crying out saying, please help us to fix our community. And we've got to make the decision to fix the communities. Staying the same and trying to move forward, you cannot do. We've got to make a decision to move forward, not taking anything from anybody, but this money gives assistance to people who cannot afford to tear down their house. Some of them are homes that are burnt down, and they are just standing up in the community as an eyesore, but the family don't have the money to tear them down. And so we would never just take someone's property. And I just want to reiterate that as chair of the community development, that is never our mindset. community first is always the mindset.
I understand it very clear. But out of the midst of this, I would like to bring some of our young people walking the streets in and teaching them a trade, teach them what I know before I leave the earth. And I spoke to some other folks who have the interest. And I'm thinking around, if you can work with me for $50 a day, which ain't much money, but you created a trade, in 2 years you can go get you a serious job or start your own business. That amounts to $250 a week. That's better than trying to walk the street and hustle and end up going to jail. So those are some of the things I have in the back of my mind out of this development of houses, if I get enough. Because then it has to be a continuous thing that they can depend on me every day and I can depend on them every day. So behind that, that's what I really want to do.
Well, Mr.
Okay.
Kennedy, thank you once again
thank
for
you.
coming before us. Thank you so much. Council, at this time, when we initially opened, we agreed to add a resolution to our addendum and insert it after our public appearance. So at this time, I would like to do the reading and introduction of ordinance. This resolution number 2022-08, a resolution to support autism awareness and recognizes all for autism for their contribution in the city of Florence. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that this resolution has been passed, and I will ask that we have the resolution. I think it's Ms. Brown who's present. Will you come forward for the receiving it?
Read it in the record.
No, you go ahead and you can take it down and go with it, because you have it copied in your record already. But you can, when you speak with her, you can go through it. William, will you take your mask with you as well, please?
Okay, so here we are. A resolution to support autism awareness and recognize all for autism for their contributions in the city of Florence. Whereas All for Autism is a nonprofit local advocacy group with the sole purpose of increasing awareness, resources, and support for those of all ages with autism spectrum disorder and their families throughout the PD region. And whereas the All for Autism organization is a grassroots effort that was started in 2005 by autism spectrum disorder families in the Florence area, and they opened the first Autism Resource Center for the PD on April 25th, 2017. And whereas autism spectrum disorders impact many areas of functioning and daily life for both children and their families. And whereas research shows that the early intervention and therapy can lead to dramatic progress and improve the quality of life for those affected by autism spectrum disorder. And whereas it can be extremely difficult to navigate and resources that are available, All for Autism assists families with this process by providing the support and guidance they so desperately need. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Florence does hereby recognize All for Autism for their many contributions to the Florence community and the PD region. Resolved this 14th day of February 2022.
You're welcome to go to the mic there, Ms. Brown.
I won't keep y'all long. I know that there are other things that y'all want to cover, but I do want to thank you. I have been in the nonprofit sector my entire career. The joke with my husband is obviously I'm not motivated by money, but but I was born and raised here, went off to college, came back here, and was not interested in duplicating any efforts. That's what I've learned being with the nonprofit organizations that I've been with. It's always wonderful to have, organizations sharing resources. I know Brian understands that. We've been able to partner with some things, and I actually approached other state organizations and tried to have them come, and had one of the largest autism, actually the oldest autism society in the U.S. tell me that the PD had come to the table several times, which makes sense because we're number 4 in the state for numbers of those with a diagnosis, but yet we have nothing here. And I asked why, and she said, no one's going to come to the PD. Well, I did not think that she gave that as a challenge, but I took it as a challenge. And I came back, and I left a job that I loved very much. Was very happy there, did not have any reason to leave, but saw a need, and I hate that Amy had to leave to get back to work, but she was brave enough to take the leap of faith with us, and I did believe that we would get support from our community. And the beautiful thing about what we're doing is, you know, we were so naive, we thought we were opening up resources and support for those with autism, but through our trainings and our partnerships with the schools and with families, and even our partnership with PD Mental Health, because of the very, very severely underserved adult population that have just now been diagnosed. I had a therapist that actually diagnoses children for autism. She's 53 years old, just found out that she has autism, and has gone through her whole life without any support or resources. So we are just honored, humbled, blessed to be here and to move this forward and to expand our services. And again, just through our partnerships and the things that we've offered, not only are we serving those affected by autism, but 80% of what we do serves anyone with a deficit. So, you know, we support groups for siblings of anyone with a disability. We have an all-inclusive camp where half of our campers are typical and half of our campers have a disability. We're the only ones doing that. It is overwhelming, and we do need support, and we do need help. We are getting referrals from pediatricians. I had a lady call me from Las Vegas the other day, and I always say, you know, they always say, do you only serve the Florence area or the PD region? I'll serve anybody that can get to me, or that I can get to. But we'd love your support. If you need us, please call us. If you know someone that we could provide resources and support, please share our names. We are looking to buy a building and to put down roots here permanently. So we're excited about the future. We're also partnering with the 911 autism system with Levi James, where we're actually going to help them develop a program where when our first responders pull someone over or have to go to an emergency at someone's home, they already have a database of that person, what is upsetting to them, how to help, you know, behavior plans to, you know, for interventions and things like that. So we always say we're a teeny little organization, but we're doing some big things, and we really, really appreciate this. This means everything, and I hope that we can partner with all of you at some point. Thank you.
Before you leave the microphone, we will give the council members to speak, but also I want to thank you for all that you're doing, and especially recognizing that autism has so many spectrums. And while you're doing your partnership, I want you to be aware that the City of Florence is working with the Florence County Management and also with the PD Mental Health, because we're looking at a call to recognize people who have any kind of disability, especially we're looking at mental health. So if before you leave, you would leave your information either with Casey, our city manager, or either with Amanda, I would glad to get y'all in connection, because Mitch Fulmer, they're working on this program, because when they do it, it's going to affect the whole state of South Carolina. So please leave your information, and I'll share it with them so they can reach out to you, because it's been a couple of months they're actually going through the whole process, because one of the things that when you start changing 911, Mr. Fulmer, make sure we understand that you don't do local changes, it will affect our whole state. So please leave your information so that we can make sure that what you're doing, maybe we can get you in connection with the county, and then you can also be a part of that program. So not only just having one for the mental health, but have autism linked in there as well. So thank you. At this time, we can recognize Councilman Pro Tem, and we'll follow from there.
Thank you so much for being here. And if I'm not mistaken, there's an event coming up that's big one for y'all, and you cannot leave here without doing a pitch. Come on now. Jessica, you got to give your pitch for this race coming up. Please
Okay.
tell us about it.
We have an annual event. It's called Pacing for Pieces. That's actually how Amy and I got to know each other. I am not a runner, nor am I an exerciser in general, but I did want to support her event, and I was excited about people actually talking about autism when my son was diagnosed 15 years ago. He was nonverbal. I knew no one else on earth, I thought, that had a child with autism. I was very isolated, very alone, and got linked up with Amy, and she had started this race, and it was in honor of her son who has autism, and she was building this race and building funds and wanted a place to put it, and I said, well, I actually am trying to start a resource center for the PD in this area, and so we partnered, and when she first started, I think she had a goal of having 100 people, 100 runners show up. And I said, well, you know what you do? You had a party afterwards. And then you get people like me that'll come because we don't even know that we're involved. You know, when we see 5K half marathon, that's not something that we know to even sign up for. So we now we used to be on the 100 block of Dargan. Then now this year we are going to be on the 200 block, and we're going to take the grounds of Pack. And it's everything from half marathon, 5K, and it's a run walk, so if you are not a runner, you can walk it. And then afterwards, they actually start at the intersection right there in front of the Pack, and then when you come back, we've got all the cheerleaders from the high schools cheering you on as you come in. We've got our first battle of the teams between the high schools, where Westmont, South Florence, and Wilson, their track and cross country teams are going to do battle of the teams and see who gets to take on this big obnoxious trophy that we got, and they get to pass it.
Jessica, and
Yes.
you got to tell us when,
Oh yes.
and then
so,
how to reach you in case anybody wants to sign up.
So it's March 12th. It's always the second Saturday in March, always. And you can go to our website at www.all4autism.org, and it has an entire tab that'll tell you everything about the event and sponsorships, where it is, anything from the race information to the event afterwards. We even have a sensory area at the Florence Museum for those that have families where it may be a little loud and you may need a quiet area. So we have a lot of parts going on there, and it's a great time. It's a wonderful way to come out and celebrate our community and those that are underserved, disabled, however you want to look at it. I mean, we have several organizations that come out. Ainsley's Angels come out, and that's a beautiful organization. And also we're bringing more and more people, not just from Florence, but from all around the area, especially now that we have a virtual option, because we also want to observe that, some people may not feel uncomfortable coming out yet. So we have a virtual option that has opened us up to families all over the U.S. So it's been a really good thing. So we've gotten up to numbers of 600 runners, so it's gotten big, and we'd love to see you out there. But like I said, don't be scared. If you don't run, just come on out about 10, and we'll have plenty of food, drink, and music, and fellowship, kids zone, anything you need. So we'd love to have you out there.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you
believe
for reminding me.
before you leave, is there any other council members who may have any questions or statements? If not, thank you once again, and congratulations on the resolution.
Thank you.
At this time, we are prepared to go into our ordinance in position. First, we have Bill number 2022-02- for second reading. It's an ordinance to annex and zone 1146 Annell Drive, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel number 01794-03-010.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Resolution has passed. Next, we have introduction of ordinance. The first ordinance is Bill number 2021-12 for first reading. And at this time, I'm going to ask that Mr. Dudley be available, but we have received a letter to have this withdrawn from President calendar or agenda, and they retain the rights that later, if they so desire, they can add it back. So if there's no objections, we will remove this item from our agenda. Is there any objection? Hearing none, bill number 2021-12 has been removed from our agenda until further notice of request by the parties to have it placed back on. Next, we have bill number 2022-03 for first reading. It's an ordinance to amend the UDO ordinance regarding portable donation receptacles. This is a first reading. Can we have a motion so we can hear from Mr.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This is an ordinance to add language to our Unified Development Code that addresses donation bins. And donation bins are typically defined as it means any unattended container, box, or similar device that is used for soliciting and collecting donations, including but not limited to clothing, footwear, books, and other salvageable household goods. Back in 2016, this went through Planning Commission and City Council and was added to the old zoning ordinance to address. We had an issue around town with a lot of unattended donation receptacles. A lot of them are dropped off and not attended to. They're dropped off at random sites. Property owners didn't even give permission for them to be dropped off, so we needed a way to address these after it was brought to our attention of these concerns. So this did come out of several meetings of Planning Commission and City Council, and when we adopted the Unified Development Code, this language was not carried over to that. So we still need to address these. This language is exactly the same as was added into the original code. It does allow them conditionally in the commercial areas, excluding the Central Business District, which is our downtown area, as well as activity center and destination services, but it does generally allow them in most commercial and industrial areas, as well as in campus settings. That way it would be allowed in churches and such as well, because this is a common use. And it does give guidance on where they can be located, some language specific to the ownership of the donation bin that would have to be on each one. And it also gives codes enforcement a mechanism to deal with these receptacles and remove them if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. So what we're basically going to do is take our 2016 ordinance and actually merge it into our present UDO. So we're not changing it, we're simply taking it and putting it as a part of the UDO.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
I think I saw a couple of hands here. Okay, here. Okay, who else? Okay. Well, let me start with Councilman Braddock. And then on this side, then I have Councilman William Schofield. Okay, in that order, please.
First of all, I want to thank Pro Tem Jubali and members of council at the time. This was an initiative that we began at the House of Hope with some other local nonprofits, the PD Disabilities Board, also Salvation Army. At the House of Hope, we really depend on these donations to turn around and sell to support our operations. Likewise, Salvation Army does the same, and PD Thrift, which is the Disabilities Board. And to see out of state, out of town companies come in and really pull those resources out of our community, which go right back into serving the needs of the community, was a big issue for us. And so I want to thank council for putting that, approving that, going through planning, and then putting it in place. And since it has not been put into the new Unified Development Ordinance, we have seen them start to pop up again. And so we do need to put this in. This is a huge benefit to the homeless, to those with disabilities, to the people served by these donations. And so I definitely would suggest that council support adding this into the development ordinance. And thank y'all for all y'all's help with it.
Councilman Schofield?
I concur with Councilman Braddock. These companies that come in here, they've done it on my family's property as well as others. They don't ask. They're not from Florence. They don't support Florence. They don't support local businesses, but they will literally drop that box in your parking lot and not ask. When I took over my family's business, when my father got sick with our commercial shopping center, I assumed that there was already a lease in effect with one that was in our shopping center. A year later, I realized, no, there's no such lease, because by the time it would come to renew that lease, there was no monies deposited. So I then called that organization, and I don't really want to name that organization out loud, but they began to forge and say that they had one. Anyways, we were able to get them to remove that container from our property, but they will not ask. They will just drop them there, and I am glad we're going to put this into effect where our codes department can actually remove these things from people's property.
Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
I want to thank Brian for, Councilman Braddock, for coming those years ago and bringing this to my attention and to the attention of council. Because as a member of the public, I just saw these bins that were out there, and I just assumed, I think as we all did, that this is local entities that were the recipients of these. And it was only, Brian, when you came to my office and sat down and explained this to me, that I even knew it was even a problem. And it was a widespread problem. And it's a ruse that is being put over on the citizens of our community. And that is the real problem that you have is, as a John Q. citizen, I want to help. I wanted to make a donation, and I think I'm making a donation to Salvation Army, House of Hope, Lighthouse Ministries, whomever that's local. Lo and behold, it turns out that it was not. It was some out-of-state entity that was essentially for profit. They were receiving these donated goods, and they would turn around and they would make a profit off of it. Well, that was not the intent on the part of those individuals who were making those donations. So that was, the genesis was when you came and initiated it, brought it to attention to council. Council took action, and hopefully, Councilman Schofield, once we put it back in the ordinances as you're putting in front of us today, we'll be able to have the teeth back in the UDO so that we can take, as a city, can take action to enforce what we had already previously put in place in 2016. So thank you for what you're doing, Jerry, and working with our nonprofit community as well as our, commercial property owners, because it's a problem for the commercial property owners as much as it is for our nonprofit. So thank you for that. And obviously, I think we're all fully supportive.
Is there any further discussion? If not, as we noted, this is an ordinance that was passed in 2016 that was not merged into our UDOs at this time. We'll take a vote about merging this 2016 ordinance to our UDO. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that this bill has passed. Next, we have Bill number 2022-04, but if there's no objection, the individual who submitted this has requested we defer it. So if there's no objections, Bill number 2022-04 will be deferred as requested by the individuals who submitted it. Next, we have Bill number 2022-05 for first reading. It's an ordinance to call for a public referendum to be held at the general election in November 2022 to determine whether or not to authorize the Department of Revenue to issue a temporary permits for a period not to exceed 24 hours to allow for the sale of beer and wine at permitted off-premises located without regards to the days or the hours of sale in the city of Florence pursuant to South Carolina Code number 61-6-2010. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. At this time, we do have our senior city attorney available for any discussion. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This came to our attention of an interest on behalf of the council to give the citizens of the city of Florence the opportunity to vote in November at the general election on a referendum to determine whether or not they want to do what many surrounding communities have done. Back in 2008, we held a referendum, and the citizens of Florence chose to allow the Department of Revenue to issue permits to allow alcoholic drinks by the drink in restaurants on Sunday. So that is where we now sit. At that time, the city did not address the idea of allowing the sale of beer or wine, for example, in a grocery store or other store for off-premises consumption. And that's what this is. The state statute allows either or both of those, but it requires that they can't be put in place unless the citizens positively vote that they want that at a referendum. So what this ordinance is designed to do is not to create Sunday sales for off premises, but instead to allow the public to decide in a referendum in November whether or not they want to do that. Many surrounding communities have done it. For example, Darlington County, Darlington, Hartsville, and others around have done it. And I think people have been approached by businesses saying it's hard for them to compete when someone can drive another 2 miles and do it by getting into another community. But that ultimately would be a decision made by the citizens. Council would not be deciding, yes, we do it. Council would be deciding, do we want to give the citizens of Florence the opportunity to decide whether to do it or not. So that's what this ordinance is doing.
And Jim, so once again, let's make sure it's clear that this is an ordinance that we're voting on whether or not to let this be voted on by the citizens.
That's correct.
And this will be in reference to having sales 7 days a week, correct?
That's correct.
Which would be also in like your convenience stores, which right now do not have that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so which other location besides convenience stores will be open up to having these sales on Sunday? So we say convenience stores and?
Well, grocery stores and other retail facilities that sell, and it's only beer and wine.
All right. Is there any questions or discussion? Recognizes Councilman Braddock.
I would like to say that due to my past and people I've worked with, this is something that I sincerely think and pray about. I've worked with people struggling with addiction, and I think a big concern is that by allowing people to vote, that this is going to cause issues with more people drinking and things like that, or especially someone who has an issue. But it's been my experience that if someone's struggling with alcoholism, the only thing that's going to keep them from drinking on Sunday is a daily personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's what I've seen people get victory. I don't think that government, that we can do anything to stop it. They can drive down the road. I'd much rather someone go to a convenience store, get alcohol, take it home, than go to a restaurant or a bar and drink there, get drunk, and then drive home. I think that our community would be much safer, and also allowing the people to choose. I think that the people need the opportunity. Here we've gone 14 years without giving the people of Florence an opportunity to decide how they would like to govern themselves. So I'm in support of allowing a vote for this and letting the people decide how they want to move forward.
Any other discussion? If not, I also would submit the same as looking at this ordinance. For me personally, I'm not in favor of Sunday sales of alcohol. But what I am in favor of, the citizens of Florence having that right to choose. So, and that's the only reason why I would support this. I knew when I go in the voting box, I would be voting nay, but I knew the others number might outrule me. But I'm always in favor of the citizens making that choice. So it's for that reason, I'm glad that it's here and we can vote and allow the citizens to make their choice. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor upon the ordinance to vote to let the citizen have their right to vote upon this ordinance to select whether or not to have sale of beer and wine really 7 days a week, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? Let the record reflect unanimously that this bill has passed to give the citizens the right to go out and vote, and that will be in November of 2022. It's your choice. Thank you. So at this time, we will go into introduction of ordinance. First, we have resolution number 2021-4, and if there's no objections, this has been requested by staff to be deferred. So if there's no objections, we will defer this resolution. And at this time, we have resolution number 2022-05, a resolution to designate additional public spaces within the city of Florence in which the possession, sales, service, and consumption and distribution of beer and wine at special events may be permitted. At this time, could we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And as we get ready to proceed in discussion, we have Ms. Amanda Pope to present this to us and answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The resolution that's before you is in accordance with an ordinance that was passed in 2014-15, which provided for the possession and consumption of beer and wine in certain limited public rights-of-way, parking lots, courtyards, lawns, and plazas. Previously, those designated spaces, the ones currently that are included are public rights-of-way and public parking areas within the downtown redevelopment overlay district, West Evans Street Breezeway, James Allen Plaza, the William H. Johnson Renaissance Dining Courtyard, and the lawn area located outside the gate immediately out in front of the Florence Tennis Center. Examples for the purpose of this ordinance were to allow service and consumption of alcohol at events such as the Pecan Festival and Florence After 5. The ordinance set forth that any other public space within the city authorized by City Council can be approved through the adoption of a resolution. Since the ordinance was passed, there have been new facilities developed where there's a desire for the allowance of alcoholic beverages for some events. City staff would like to recommend the following locations be added: the City Center Market, the Lawton Chase House and Lawn, Florence Soccer Pavilion and Lawn, and the Florence Sports Complex Stadium.
Is there any discussion or question of Ms. Pope? If not, if you're ready for the question, all those in favor of resolution number 2022-05 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that resolution number 2022-05 has passed. Next, we have resolution number 2022-06, a resolution to adopt the South Carolina Municipal Association 2021-2022 Advocacy Initiative. And do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. And is there any discussion?
Yeah, there's.
Chair,
Let's
Rick.
go first.
No, I was just going to announce it. Again, Madam Mayor and members of council, we do have this resolution to adopt the Municipal Association 21-22 Advocacy Initiatives. These initiatives represent solutions to challenges that can be addressed through the changes to state law. This was requested or sponsored by Councilman McCall, and I think he has some statements to this effect.
Okay, and before we move to a statement, Scotty, do you want to read those things out that the Municipal Association is working fund for municipalities.
Yes, ma'am. The initiatives include broadband expansion, enclave annexation, law enforcement reform, code enforcement, abandoned buildings tax credits, local government fund, firefighter healthcare benefit plan, PTSD funding, that's post-traumatic stress disorder funding, zero millage, municipal capital projects penny, expansion of Nalozone, and Textile Communities Revitalization Act.
Thank you. And for all those who may not have heard, the Municipal Association is actually an association of the various cities and towns throughout South Carolina. And the Municipal Association itself represents all the municipalities. And they actually go forth and have lobbyists who lobby for these items that you're hearing being presented. And the resolution before us is requesting that, the city do a resolution to acknowledge those things in support of the municipality. And I think the councilman wants to read something as well.
Yeah, I just want to say of course, all these initiatives will not be passed, but hopefully we can show that the city of Florence do support these initiatives being passed, and hopefully that our state representatives and state senate, I think our candidates are not going now, but we have some state senate candidates in here, can hear the concerns that a lot of the cities itself are having across the entire state. Two in particular I think that would be beneficial to the city of Florence is one, the enclave annexation. I think we have donut holes in the city of Florence that we want to be able to annex into the city. I think there's a bill now by Representative Pendarvis out of North Charleston, as well as it's co-sponsored by Terry Alexander, to get that passed. So hopefully that can help us out here in the city of Florence. And in addition to it, a little further down the list is the municipal capital projects pending sales tax. Again, this is something that I think will be very beneficial in allowing our cities to grow by giving the people the opportunity to be able to vote on type of projects that they want to have. And again, this is something that, again, we're talking about economic development for our area. I think this is a prime example of something that will be highly beneficial to the city of Florence and to all the cities that's a part of the state of South Carolina.
Any others? Chair recognizes Councilman Brady.
One of the things that tweaked my ear, and I'm sure are going to tweak people's ear, and they're going to ask me about, is law enforcement reform. When we agree and when we adopt, it's saying that we acknowledge. So if someone comes to me, I guess Mr. Davis, somebody comes to me and says, Brian, you voted to adopt, the Municipal Association's initiative on law enforcement reform. What does that mean that I have voted to adopt?
It states on their website, support and reform measures to aspects of law enforcement training and duties. So it's specifically addressing training, law enforcement training.
Any other question or discussion? And
Madam
Chair,
Mayor, I think there
Chair
is,
recognizes Councilman McCall.
as far as for law enforcement reform, there, to my knowledge, I think there are a couple Republican bills that's currently in the House now pertaining specifically to this. I don't know whether or not the likability of passing, but I do know there are a couple of Republican House members that have a couple of law enforcement reform bills that's sponsored through the Municipal Association as well. So I know it's getting kind of iffy a little bit, but it is, you got Republican conservatives bringing up that issue as well. But that's what happens.
I just want to know how to answer intelligently, because I will be asked.
And also just to state too as well, just realize that when you hear about reform simply means that there are things that actually our officers themselves have requested be looked at. So a lot of times people hear this and they think it's just the citizens. No. Law enforcement has requested things to be reformed. So this is a bill to actually help our law enforcement. And it's important that we know that any organization deserves the right to be improved and have their professional trainings and things like this will make things better. So every time you hear that word, don't have a red flag. Our officers have things that they desire to see happen as well. When it comes to the annexations and the enclaves, those are good things, but also at the same time, we must think about that while we're doing this, one of the things that we're in discussion with and mention some to some county councilors, that when we're doing annexations of donut holes, We do need to look at some of the issues in the area, especially with like stormwater drainage, that as we're doing this, that if funds are available through the county, that they address those issues before they're placed into the city, because financially, we have issues here in the city that we don't have the dollar for anyway. And that comes down to that sales tax, that petty sales tax. Those things would be good that we're looking at. So the city, if you pay one for the city, it'd be specifically for your city area. Unlike when we pass it for the county, then you get a certain amount, kind of div it out to you. So all those issues are great issues that the Municipal Association looks at for the city. And like I said, they have been representing us for years. And they do an excellent job at what they do. And they also provide education for the municipalities, for all the members, if they so choose to go forth and get education. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, council. Next, we had an addendum item which was added, which was resolution number 2022-07, and that resolution is a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city council to execute a community development block grant mitigations, CDBG-MIT, subrecipient agreement between the City of Florence and South Carolina Office of Resiliency to fund an infrastructure improvement project that will mitigate the impact of future disasters. Do we have a motion?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. At this time, we can proceed any discussion, but we have Mr. Moore here to give us an explanation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the same stormwater grant that the City of Florence received approximately 6 to 8 months ago for the McQueen Cedar Streets. That was a $4 million grant. And then about 3 months after that, we also received approximately $250,000 for an overall stormwater master plan grant. So this is a part of that, those grant dollars that are being provided by the state. And for this grant, it is approximately $3 million, specifically along the North Church Street and Oakland Avenue areas. You'll see here on the map, the darker highlighted blue areas are those watersheds that will be conducting this work. So after this resolution is passed, we will start the public notice procedure and then followed by surveying design. And so in about 12 to 18 months, we should see some shovels in the ground conducting work.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. At this time, Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Council I've got a question for you, Mr. Moore. It's my understanding that in the Oakland Avenue area, that this will address what has just, I guess it's commonly referred to as the areas that are on the street, these catch basins that go nowhere.
That's correct.
So if you, for purpose of the community, so they'd understand when Oakland Avenue was repaved and then some infrastructure was put in to hopefully try to address some of the flooding issues that were there. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough funds to completely address it because there were some catch basins and water container, but when you had a big water event, there was just nowhere for the water to go.
That's correct. The state did a project a number of years ago that I think there's some sidewalk improvement, resurfacing, storm drainage type work that very minimal stormwater work was able to be completed. A lot of this area lacks a lot of infrastructure, so this will be all infrastructure based, putting in stormwater, catch basins, pipes, the like to help address a lot of those standing water issues
and get the water out.
That's right.
Okay. I know that'll be welcome news for
Yes.
all of our North Florence residents, as well as everybody that travels up and down Oakland Avenue, because it is a very heavily traveled road for thoroughfare as well. And when we have a big rain event, how often do we see those signs, road closed, come up because of the flooding on the road? So this is wonderful that we're getting this grant and able to address this problem and to try to fix a very important thoroughfare through an important part of our community. But thank you for that.
Chair recognizes Councilman Schofield.
Clint, back in June, we passed $7 million worth of improvements, and Oakland Avenue was included in that. So is this on top of that? So we're doing the other project plus this one, or does this one mitigate the other issues from the other to where that there will be funding available from the previous for another project?
So we will we'll begin the surveying and engineering process with that, and depending on the funding, we have $3 million with this grant. If that's able to cover those costs, we can put the bond money towards another project possibly. So as we work through this, we'll be able to make that determination.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion or any other questions? If not, thank you, Mr. Moore, so much. And at this time, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Letter effect that resolution number 2022-07 has passed. At this time, we will have report to council. First, we have appointments to board and to commission. And we'll be hearing from Mr. Davis at this time.
Mayor, members of council, we actually have 4 boards or commissions that have vacancies or expired terms. We'll start with our Board of Zoning Appeals. There's 1 vacancy on this board due to a resignation that is in your packet. We have 1 new applicant, Mr. Michael Tommy Phillips, and that appointment falls to Councilman McCall.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall at this time.
I would defer this at this moment.
Okay. Councilman has deferred.
Second board is Construction and Maintenance, Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We have 2 vacancies. The requirements are that we need to have an engineer and a mechanical contractor. We do not have any applicants at this time. Madam Mayor, the nominations fall to you.
At this time, due to there's no applicants, I will have to defer, but I would also like to request that all of our citizens, please go to the cityoflorence.com site and look at these various boards that are available, and please submit your application. It is you, the citizens, who need to serve on these boards so that you can also communicate with the citizens of Florence. So please, I would ask that you go to the site and volunteer to help hold of our city. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. We have the Aesthetics Advisory Committee. We have 2 seats. Members must reside or be employed within the city limits. There are no applicants, although we do have Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Moore to make nominations.
Due to lack of applicants, we will have to defer.
Finally, we have our Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. There are 2 seats to be filled on this committee. The members must reside in District 2 and District 3 there. We do not have any applicants at this time. However, making nominations would include Councilwoman Moore and Mayor Pro Tem Jabay.
There's no applicants, and I don't believe either councilman has anyone that it is going to submit at this time. So due to the lack of applicants, we have no choice but to defer those appointments at this time. And once again, I would ask that you please go to cityoflorence.com and view this position, and please put in, because this is how you make a difference in your cities, by coming forth and serving on the boards. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. Davis, for that. So at this time, our next report to council is from Councilman Chaquez McCall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excuse me, one moment. Chair recognizes.
Are we not going to do the Chair of Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee?
Well, Mr. Davis, do you want to do that at this time?
Yes, ma'am. The Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee needs a chairperson. That chairperson must be appointed by council as per the ordinance. I did present 3 names. We actually have 7 of the 9 members on that board. We've had a meeting with that board, and we have 3 names who've asked to be considered for chairperson, and that must again be appointed by council.
And also, council, if you look at the information sheet set before you, you will notice that these are 3 individuals who have submitted themselves, and they desire to serve on the committees. So if there are no objections, we will entertain the council to do nominations for the chair of the Resiliency and Sustainability Advisory Committee. And we got several hands here. And we have Council Pro Tem that we recognize, but he did have his hand up prior to anyone stating.
It's a point of order question. We just got through the list of seats that are open and seats that are filled. And if I understood correctly, the question about chair is for the Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's the one we just identified, that there's 2 seats open.
Correct.
And so we don't even have a full complement of members of that committee at this time. Is that right?
That is right. You have 7 of 9 members.
That was my question. Thank you.
And it's in the address point of office order, there is a majority because you have 7 members. So the committee has actually already had an initial meeting, so they can move forward. So at this time, the request is for the council to look at the 3 individuals who are a member of the committee. And we have two to recognize. I would like to recognize Councilman Moore and Councilman Schofield at this time before moving forward.
I'd like to nominate Leo Woodbury.
Ms. Councilwoman is nominated. Mr. Leo Woodbury recognizes now Chairman.
I was making a
Councilman
motion to
Schofield.
defer so that the council could be able to have more time to talk about it, since we were just given this piece of paper today.
Okay, right now we actually have a motion on the floor for Councilman Woodbury, and I'm gonna second that motion. Do we have any other nominees, or you can say amendment for you defer?
I think
Because we have a nomination on the floor, and these individuals, submitted themselves, and these are who they're sending for.
Y'all wanna rush it?
Chair recognizes Councilman.
So are you, Councilman Schofield, are you making an amendment to the motion to defer? Is that what you're doing?
In point of order, I think
I'm
our
trying-
city attorney has something here.
I'm just trying to understand the process.
You want to call him, he'll be better to
Absolutely.
get this for you.
I think the way the parliamentary procedure would call for you to handle this is that if a motion to defer is made and seconded, you would first address the motion to defer. If council decides to proceed on with the nominations, then you have presently 1 nomination on the floor. You would open it up to see if there are other nominations. Once you find that out, this is a little bit unusual because we have the potential for more than 1 candidate. So you see how many nominations there are. If you then have multiple nominations, then you vote on each one, and the one getting the most votes becomes the chair.
So I'm asking that you remain, just in case. So at this time, we have a motion for deferral. Do we have a second to the deferral?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to defer the appointment of a chair for the Resiliency and Sustainability Advisory Committee. Do we have any discussion?
and I want to hop in.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Will it be like a hindrance on the committee? I haven't spoken with them. Would it be a hindrance on the committee if we was to wait a month? We did just get this today, all right? But I don't want to hinder them from working, all right? I know they just got a quorum. Have anyone been in discussion with them about whether or not this would be a hindrance to them if it was to, I guess, give every council member an opportunity to speak with, I guess, to review the candidates one.
Okay, Scott is gonna come forward. Okay, and okay, and I do want to just once again have you realize that this committee is already met, and these are the 3 names who are coming forward from them. So they have. when it comes to the parliamentary procedure of how they can proceed, I will leave that discussion up to our deputy city manager and our attorney.
The question was, as I understand, will it be a hindrance? Mr. Peterson and I met with the committee on February 10th, and as his normal practice, Mr. Peterson outlined the do's and don'ts of what is expected. We introduced other staff members that will assist in that process. Once the chair is elected, then the chair of this committee will then work to identify a vice chair and a secretary. Until those positions are elected or appointed, then staff would act in that capacity. This committee also reports and works with the Community Development Committee there. So once the chair is elected, we will also make arrangements so that this chair will meet with and discuss the procedures of selecting the plan or creating the plan, the document that council has charged this committee with, the sustainability document, the action plan. So they will meet with that Community Development Committee as well. So until such time as a chair is elected, staff will work with them and conduct those meetings.
And I would add, one thing that's a little unusual about this committee is the document establishing this committee, which was patterned after some around the state, calls for council to elect the first chair of this committee. The committee then elects the vice chair and the recording secretary. In the future, the chair and the other officers will be elected by the committee. It won't come back to council. So the idea of this is council's opportunity to elect the first chair. And of course, the chair on this committee is very much like the chair of any organization. Their obligation is to head up and chair the meetings of the committee and to make sure the committee follows the rules and procedures for that committee. So at that first meeting, all of the members present and all 7 of the ones that have been appointed were present. And they were all asked, if you have any interest in serving as chair, please send your name in through staff. Those 3 names, I think, isn't it 3 names? The 3 names you have were the 3 members that expressed an interest in being considered for chair. So that's sort of where it is. Obviously, the committee has already met one time without a chair, and Scotty sort of led that meeting as a staff member. They are going to meet a minimum of 6 times a year. I think they're planning to meet again in March, if I remember correctly. Certainly the committee can meet again without a chair. It's not, they're prohibited from doing that. It's purely up to council as to whether you are ready yet to elect or to appoint that first chair of that committee.
Thank you, Jim. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilman McCall, and after Councilman McCall, we'll recognize Councilman Schofield.
I guess what I'm asking, can we get like a gentleman's and ladies agreement? Are they going to meet prior to our next council meeting? Are you aware of that? That's a good question. I mean, I know.
They're actually the day after
The day after the council meeting.
So if we would meet the day after the council meeting, could it be suffice for us to, I guess, bring this up at the next council meeting? Because by that time, everyone will have a chance to, I guess, look at the candidates. I think that's fair and reasonable. If we can make that decision at the next council meeting. So if it's the day afterward, I think that should be well.
At this time, the chair recognizes Councilman Schofield.
Yeah, ask them to answer the same question, please.
Chair recognizes Councilman Hackett-Seymour.
Okay, they were all together at a meeting, and this is the 3 names that came out of it. as possibility for chair. Okay? I'm nominating one of those people who's on this list. And then they'll have a chair, and then they have to, after that, they have to do the vice chair and the secretary and everything, but it's up to us to get them started.
Yeah, so all I'm
Our
saying
chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
I know, I got you. All I'm saying is we will have very well could be the same person you nominate could be the chair. All I'm saying is for the sake of equity for everybody, they're not going to meet prior to us choosing chairman, basically. So it could be the next meeting we can all still decide on the same exact person, and it won't hinder them from doing anything. It's just the next meeting. We'll meet on the Monday. They'll meet on the Tuesday, and we can still have the exact same chairperson we have now. So there's no detriment to us deferring and giving everybody the opportunity. I think you got some council members who are just saying, I just got this sheet today, basically. And I don't think it hurts. It wouldn't hurt the group from not meeting on it. I mean, it wouldn't hurt the group if we were to wait till the next council meeting. So I guess they can get handled.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second to defer the nominations to next month's meeting. All those in favor of deferring, please signify by showing of hands so I can get it. Okay. All right. And those opposed, like sign. Let the records reflect that the nomination will be deferred to next month's meeting. Thank you, council. Okay. So next we have on agenda here, we have committee reports. We will start with our Business Development Committee. We will hear from that chair at this time.
Excuse me.
Oh, shit. Skip.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair of the business.
Let's get the council, my report.
Yes.
Yes, we're in the council, we're on the committee reports. So now we can have a report from the Business Development Committee, Chair.
No, see, on the reports to council, we skip.
Yes, at the top.
Oh, your council,
Yeah.
excuse me, council. So now we have a report from, we started that and we left it to go back. So we have a report from Councilman Chakres McCall to discuss council committees.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Councilman.
yeah, and kind of going back to what we were kind of talking about earlier from our previous discussion on the municipal association initiatives. This here is something similar that through my conversations with a lot of council members and other cities at the legislative day conference for municipal association about 2 weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that for the city of Florence to, I guess, for us as council members to all have a better understanding of the budget and finance process, for us to start a finance and budget committee. Again, the city of Florence has been a great steward of public funds. That's why we're in a great financial position that we're in today. Credit to Kevin and Randy and the administration beforehand of making sure that we are, in great standing. But the only thing that has been brought up is we often get the cake. Well, some people want to understand how the cake is made, all right? And it's just no action can be made from this committee. It's more just for better understanding of council. So I will submit that we create a finance and budget committee out of this. May have some other council members who want some discussion on it as well. But hearing back from other cities, we're not the only city that will be doing this. There's hundreds of other cities that already have this type of committee, and is there for their understanding. I know we're a city manager form of government and weak mayor form of government. I know the city manager has the authority to prepare and present a budget, and basically we have the power to implement that budget. Vote on the budget. Sorry, but again, just understanding the budget process in its totality is what I think this committee would be served well for us, and I think it'd be beneficial for us to have it.
I have a question for you, Councilman. Do you have information on this committee, anything in writing, so the council can read, just like we just deferred for these here? Do you have anything for us to read?
No, but I can answer the question.
Well,
I think Brett want to say something.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask that we defer this and you present us some more information so the council can read. I understand what you're saying, but I also know that in the mayor forum, a lot of the cities have moved away from subcommittees. So I would ask that you bring or send us some information so we can read it. And I understand you're saying it's for educational purpose, because a lot of council don't understand the budgeting process. And if so, what I would ask that we do is that the Municipal Association, they have training courses. I would ask that we, all the council members, please enroll in those councils. There was like maybe 10 cities who have 100% participation. That means all the council members have attended and actually graduated. And at the same token, I request that if we don't understand the budgeting process, that we sit down with Mr. Yoakum, because that is one of the greatest minds when it comes to finances that you can hear. He served the county, and prior to coming from the county, he came to the city. So I would say if we don't understand it, sit down with Mr. Yoakum, and then if you do not get the understanding or training, down with him and then kind of structure that committee that you're talking about so that education can be there. Because as a city, for a council, we meet with the staff so they can explain the budget. And any time, I think all council members need to know, when the staff submit a budget to us, if you look at it, if you question it, you don't like it, you have that right authority to sit down with our city manager and look at moving those numbers. You do have that right and authority. So I would ask that we go ahead and you sit down with Mr. Yoakum, you just talk with him, and then if you need to structure a program, that committee can get trained and do that, bring that back to us or send it out ahead of the next meeting so we can read and understand what we're voting on, just like we just did with the individuals here. We need information so we can vote too. And I think we need to go to Councilman Braddock, and after Councilman Braddock, we'll come back to Councilman Call.
All right, so a couple of questions, maybe one for our attorney. First, Councilman McCall made a motion to establish the committee. And
I don't think I did.
No, he did not motion.
He did not make a motion.
No, because right now we're on reports committee, so he's simply reporting to us. He's reporting to what information he returned. There's no motion.
So when we established the Community Development Committee, the Business Committee, the Marketing and PR Committee, from my understanding and looking back, it was simply we made a motion to do so and we established a committee. Is that correct?
That is the way those committees of council were created, by motion. And certainly that can be done. Of course, what a resolution is a written motion. It does not require an ordinance to establish a committee of council. So that's totally up to council. I think what we've had so far is that Councilman McCall, of course, has reported some information that he has learned and sort of thrown out the idea of the establishment of a finance and budget committee of council. And I think what the mayor has requested, there's no motion on the floor. What the mayor has requested is that council consider that, but that before considering that, ask if he could provide any sort of written information from the Municipal Association or others about how that committee would function in a form of government like we have, which of course is a manager-council form of government. So that's sort of where we are, parliamentary standpoint.
When Councilman McCall came to me regarding this, I was very very intrigued and interested. I'm on a small nonprofit. We only have about a $2 million budget, and we have a finance committee meeting a week before our board meeting simply to understand, and so that people understand the finances. And if a board of 12, given information on a $2 million budget, found it a necessity to have a finance committee, I certainly think that with our budget, that it would be prudent, if we're going to have a community development, PR marketing, if we're going to have a business development, I'd like to make a motion that we form a finance audit budget committee simply to review matters of city finance, internal and external audit and budget.
In parliamentary procedure, we're still in the phase of discussion, so each council member still has that right to discuss, correct?
But I can't make a motion, correct?
Right, we're in the midst of a discussion right now, so, and we're going to acknowledge, go through our discussion, so any council member who has discussion can do it and have the right at least do two discussions, since we don't have anything here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to add to what you were saying. I did graduate from the institute, so I'm fully aware of the capabilities out there, and I do want to encourage everybody to, of course, to go. I'm a graduate of it. Secondly, you have countless of other cities that have this exact same board. I don't think it was an issue at that point. Now, I get what you're saying. What you're saying, some cities are moving away from it. Well, I spoke to many council members, and they found it very, very helpful for their city, and I thought it was something that we could bring back to council here. Thirdly, none of the committees we created last time was in writing. So I think it's just kind of pointless and trivial. So at this point, I kind of defer to that.
And I'll also just interject to say that you graduated from the first, it's actually two. You have your municipal first training and then your advanced. It's a two-part training graduate. But also just the mere fact that we just sit here, the other committees that was established were established just like you say without anything. But what we had to do, once it was established, you had to go back and then try to set up guidelines for those committees. And even prior to that, you must remember that we met at Francis Marion, and everyone, the whole of the council and the staff participated in that. And when it came down to what those three subject matters were supposed to cover, the city council and the staff actually outlined that. So that was done. But to go back to the fact that what I'm hearing is you saying you need an educational piece.
I still
have the floor. When we talked, you and I, we discussed about understanding. But when it comes to the information, I do want the general public to know, regardless of how the council vote, that's fine. But I do want to acknowledge that we get a monthly report on the finances from this city that actually Mr. Yoakum sent out. So when it comes to knowledge of the finance of the city, every council member is informed, not just at meetings, but every council member receives that information. And if you have any questions about the information, you can always contact the city manager and also Councilman Yoakum. So from our conversation, what I received, I thought you was looking for the educational piece. But I would second, I have the floor.
Yeah, it's a
No, I have the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
So from my standpoint of view, whatever the council chooses to do, the council can do. But I do want the general public to understand that on the behalf of our city manager, the leadership, and our financial director, each one of us receive that information every month. And if there's ever any questions, we can pick up the phone and we can talk to our city manager, our financial director. But if the council so desired to actually put together a committee, respectfully, I would support that. But what I would ask, learning from what we did earlier with these three committees, is that you sat down and you do what's proper and outline those committees and bring them back, because I find it kind of odd that we're going to vote on something again that we have no information when we just told everyone we don't need to vote on three people who we've already voted on to be on the committee. These individuals were appointed to these three individuals was appointed. So we've already approved these people. So, but we want to defer the appointment here so that we'll have more time. So in the same, no sir, because I have the floor. I have the floor. So for me, I want it clear that I'm asking the same thing that we just asked, that we receive this information and the council member put together exactly what he wants from this committee. And then we come back and we vote on it at the same time that we're going to vote on what we defer. And at that, I'm going to leave it. I just want it to be clear on my part that we can vote on any and everything, but putting something up last minute, no information, regardless of whether we've done it before or not, we can do better. And if you talk to individual head of this meeting and you knew this was something that you wanted, everyone should have had the right to read this in advance. And I believe, and I know the other committees that when we formulate these things, we met with the staff, put this stuff together before bringing it to the council. So on that, I'm still going to say whatever the council chooses to do, they can. But for me, serving before, out of respect to all the council, we should always bring things forward so the council members would have that right in advance before they vote. So at this time, I'm going to recognize the pro tem for his point of order. After his point of order, then we'll go to Councilman McCall.
I would ask our city attorney, it's my recollection, and I could be mistaken, that the committees were formed by resolution that came before council previously in a form of a written resolution. And that was something that was circulated and that was presented to council at the time the three committees were formed at that time. And I'm basing on my recollection, I could be mistaken, but that's why it was a point of order. I just want to make sure that we understand clearly kind of where we were previously.
Casey has just confirmed for me that she thinks there were written resolutions when the committees were formed. I honestly don't remember one way or the other. I know they came about with motions on an agenda item to talk about committees. It was shown as a report on committees, and then there was a motion based on that. I honestly don't remember off the top of my head whether there was a written resolution.
My recollection is that there were, and that it was pretty detailed in terms of the configuration and all, how these, how many council members are going to be on it. So that's a recollection that I have, but it was.
We can certainly check on that and find that out for you. I just don't want to trust my memory.
I understand, but that was the point of order, was trying to get clarity, because reference had been made to what was done previously, and I just want to make sure that I was clear on that. That's all.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
I was gonna be. My thing is, in all honesty, what I don't like is I feel like you like to do this in front of people. I called you, we spoke about it. We had this exact conversation on the phone before, and then you act like as if you're just out of nowhere. This has come out of some conspiracy theory. So I think you're gonna be truthful to the people. Be truthful. Tell them we talked about it, and you say you're gonna vote against it then, and I'm fine with that. But when you want to get up here and grandstand on TV, man, it's just not right, and it's very unethical in my opinion. And I hate that it comes to that, man. But we talked about exactly what it was. There was no issue there. You said you're going to vote against it. That's fine. But for you to make this grandstand as if there's some conspiracy or something behind that, that's just totally wrong. And to me, I think it's highly unethical, and I'm very disappointed. Simply that.
And I will come back with that. We did have a conversation, as when I stated, we had the conversation.
You said you didn't know anything about it.
No, I will not let you put that untruth out there. I stated that we spoke on the phone, and from my understanding, you had a question about the educational piece.
I never said education.
And then I asked you with that, and also during the course of that conversation, you stated you would talk to Mr. Yoakum so that you could see what can be done. And, well, did you speak to Mr. Yoakum, or did you have opportunity?
Is that a question?
Yes, sir.
I did not.
Okay. So on the conversation, I always like to keep everything clear to the point. When he called, actually, I called you because I was checking with you to see was there any question about the agenda, and
No,
you
you're
stated,
calling about this.
and you stated, I asked you about the agenda, and then on this, you stated about the piece here, and you said you wasn't sure about it because you had it on, you was gonna take off, and then you wanted to hold this spot. And in the course of that, we talked about council members, just as you stated. A lot of them sometimes did not understand the agenda when it comes to the allocation of funds, and that they didn't feel like they had the opportunity to, give input with that. So we had a long conversation about that. During the conversation, I asked you to talk to Mr. Yoakum to see how he could help for the council to get understanding about this. You told me that you would talk to Mr. Yoakum, and from that point, like I told you, I said that I did not see a need to have a committee unless it was a function, but there was no function that you could describe at that time, so we left it off. to my understanding, that you was gonna talk to Mr. Yocum. And then you say that once you spoke to him, if you saw the need for a committee, that you was gonna bring it forth. And I told you, if you spoke to Mr. Yocum and all that was fine, I wouldn't have a problem with supporting it. But if you do not have an understanding, no, I'm not gonna vote for anything like this when there's no guidelines. Because what we're doing now is that, we're going back and forth about something that we don't even have in writing. My firm belief in service, that when we bring something before these council members, the council members need to be informed on what they're voting for. And it still goes back to the premises that we respect the fact that with these 3 individuals, we just deferred because the council didn't have the information. And maybe they have the information, I don't, but I don't. So even if we vote to do whatever the council want to do, I'm gonna support whatever the council decide. But no, I will always stress the fact that when I think that something is not in writing so we can understand it, I'm gonna vote against it until I see what we have in writing. And for this right here, we're voting on something we don't have any information about. Then when we go back, when we pull the information about our committees, we didn't have any formal outlines for those committees. We had information that we received at Francis Mayor, which was stated about everything stuff that needs to be done. Then the council got together and outlined committees, and they brought forth the committees, and they voted for chairs. But we had that information from Francis Mayor.
And you voted against that too.
With this right here, we don't have any information.
You voted against that too.
And Councilman, I have the floor, and I know you're trying to defend your point, but the point of order for me is that we don't have anything to vote on, nothing. And you said you would talk to Mr. Yocum, which you hadn't. And I'm not gonna go back and forth and debate if you don't have a point directly to this. No more personal attacks, because for one thing, the things you're saying about ethical and unethical is not correct. And the point that you just clarified, you did speak to Mr. Yocum. So I'm not gonna attack you, and I do not want you trying to attack me. If it's not something to this point, please do not discuss it.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Well, I would first say, I'm gonna be the bigger person on this one. From the phone conversation, what you're saying is untrue, which is fine.
Okay, first, I'm gonna ask that you stop, Councilman, please stop making personal attack that's unfounded and not true. Please stick to what you wanna say to the agenda. No more personal attacks.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. It's neither here nor there, but what I'm saying is this. If you're to be the bigger person on this, right? I brought it up to you because I knew you were gonna do this.
No more personal attacks. What do you have
I'm
toward,
saying I brought it
what
up.
do you have for this,
I am-
Councilman? How do
can
you
I-
wanna
can I
proceed?
finish? Can I finish
No,
my
sir,
point?
if you're gonna continue to, we ask respect for all of our council members that you don't
Okay.
attack individuals. So if you got a motion that you want a motion for your committee, or if you want to defer, whatever you choose to do, but please take action now on your item. Thank you.
All I'm saying is it easier if we were to defer it and to have it in writing? Would that be easier for you, Madam Mayor? Even though you're going.
Whatever you want to do, if you want to take action to create the committee, please do so. If you want to defer, because you can, because this is your item, Councilman, so you have the right to choose.
I haven't made a motion. I'm just saying for the sake of council. Would it be better for you if it was in writing? Would it be better for you?
This is your item. Whatever you choose is best. You choose. If you have the right to motion to create, you have the motion right to defer, but this is your right.
I haven't made a motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying it's your right to do so.
It's just a discussion, so I guess back to Councilman Bradley.
No, we have 2 hands. Who raised their hands first? I didn't see. Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock, followed by Councilman Barnes.
We're still in discussion phase?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I want to say, we're not trying to do anything, and as it was presented to me by Councilman McCall, anything to undermine the city manager or the CFO, the finance manager, Mr. Yocum. When my board voted to form a finance committee, I was not at all intimidated, upset. I think transparency is a great thing, especially in terms of finance. I simply want a reporting board for council to report monthly on the financials from a council perspective, not from the city perspective, not from the Mr. Yoakum's perspective, but 3 people to sit down, like Councilman Pro Tem Jabali said earlier, to see how the sausage is made. And then on a monthly basis, just like with community development, marketing, PR, business, just say, we met with the city manager, we met with finance, these are some things we're looking at, this is where we are, and from our perspective, this is what we see, some issues that we may need to address in the future. I don't think that, we didn't need anything in writing before. I don't think that we're trying to do anything that's going to have any kind of power, usurp, or undermine, or intimidate, or do anything other than see how the sausage is made. So I think it's prudent, being members of City Council, that we take this action just so we have an understanding. People ask me all the time about different things, and I can go to a class and learn how to do, learn how budgets are made, and I make budgets, but that's not going to do anything to help me understand our budgets. Everybody's budget's different. I think that to push back against this, to try to state things, to put it off, I think that if I'm general public watching this, or if I'm in the audience, I think that things are being done because people are concerned about the level of transparency. I think what we're doing here is prudent. I think that other cities found it prudent, and I don't see any reason to defer it. So whenever we get through the discussion phase, I'd like the opportunity to make the motion.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Florence.
I wanted to ditto some of what Councilman Braddock said. This committee is to show transparency. The other committee has 3 people, and I only know one of them that's being nominated, Leah Woodbury, and which, we've had several conversations, and I really like the conversations that we've had. However, I know nothing about the other 2. But having transparency and voting on who we decide to be the chairperson are not the same. They're not the same. We need to, we're saying, when it was brought to me, and actually when we were down in Columbia, it was brought to our attention, and I thought it was a great idea. Because it shows that we want to have an open book. That's all. We want to have an open book on how we do things. It is not to intimidate or try to show anybody up, and it also gives an understanding. However, just like Councilman McCall said, if it will be more palatable to move to next month, then maybe we need to defer. I am in support, full support of this. But if, we can stay right here, or we can go, or how about I call for a question. Let's just vote to say where we want to go with this.
Any further discussion?
Last thing,
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
I promise you this was not meant to. I knew this was going to happen, but I promise you I was trying to be, I guess, fair and equitable about it, right? However, it gets something lengthy and unnecessary lengthy discussions, which is fine. But I'm at this point now. I just want to go ahead and vote for it. I don't even want to defer at this point. I think I try to be fair and equitable, but it's just sometimes it doesn't matter. So I want to call for the question. Go ahead and vote for it, and let's just go ahead and get it over.
Okay, you got to make a motion so we have a motion. No, motion hadn't been made. A motion needs to be made and then second. So state your motion, Councilman.
I make a motion that we form a finance audit budget committee for the committee to review matters related to city finances, internal and external audit and budget, and report to council on a monthly basis.
Second.
You want to pass me that written thing that you've written down so I need it so I can state
I'll
it.
write it down.
And just correct me as I go along, Councilman. So your motion is that we establish a financial and
Audit and Budget Committee.
and budget committee.
Yeah.
Just keep stating it out of state as you're doing it.
To review matters
To review matters
related to city finances,
related to city finances,
internal and external audit and budget,
internal and external audit and budget,
to report to council
to report to council
on a monthly basis.
on a monthly basis. And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to amend,
Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to amend the motion to add that Councilman McCall be appointed as the chair of this committee, and that he then, as happened with the other committees, that he be appoint two other members of council to serve with him on that committee. So I'd like to amend it.
To amend that, Councilman Chakres will be the chairperson, and then he will select two other council members to
Correct.
serve with.
So that's my amendment.
Okay, you heard the amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
So I have a amendment, second, and you've heard the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, is there any discussion, first of all? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So let it reflect that the amendment has passed. Okay. All right, that completes that item. Next, we have committee reports.
We have to vote.
Jim, do we have to vote again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Now have to vote on
the amended.
as amended.
So as amended, as stated already into the record, I dare not try to repeat. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, is there any discussion, first of all? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed, like sign nay. Okay. Nay, yeah, it's nay here too. Okay, so we have 5-4-2 against. Next, we have committee
Excuse me, Mayor, may I say one thing?
yes.
And the reason I'm against this right now is our budget is probably 100 times bigger than Brian's budget for the House of Hope. The city has a huge responsibility. And if we don't get it right, we're gonna have everybody coming at us left and right. We have a city manager. As it was stated, city manager can explain it, and Yoakum can explain it. But we will have people coming after us left and right. I have people coming after me now for different reasons, for money, about money.
And Councilwoman, what I would ask that when we proceed into the Business Development Committee report, that in the statement, just put it under there so we show we're in order, okay? So at this time, we're entering to the committee reports, and the first we have Business Development Committee, and we'll hear from that chair, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, maybe we have to take a quick 5-minute break, please.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
You have a motion, a second?
Brian gave that to me.
No, I won't need it now. I had already read it in it.
Okay.
We have returned from our break, and at this time, we were proceeding to our committee reports. And we will start with our Business and Development Committee report from the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The Business Development Committee met on February the 3rd at 1:30, and we had some really good conversations about some of the needs with the city and how we can partner with other entities. And I think a great example is with Stephanie Bosch, who came before us and talked about how the city, the county, the Economic Development Partnership, the private entities, how we all need to try to work together. And that's what the thrust of the Business Development Committee has been working on. We addressed a number of topics, including the corridors in town, specifically the East Florence corridor and the needs there. We talked about other aspects of development in the city and what would happen with regard to the certain sites. There was, for instance, a former Big Lot site. We discussed that. We talked about traffic impact with regard to development. We talked about stormwater issues relating to like Gully Branch and traffic that would be impacted by certain developments that may involve Coit Street and Irby Street. We looked at the kinds of things that need to happen there. And then we had a wonderful presentation given to us by Hannah Davis. And she presented to us some documents that we were able to take a look at that. I don't know, were they distributed? I think they were emailed, yes. Michael says they were emailed to all of council, but there was an executive summary that was done, and I have it here in one hand, and it's of the population in the city and how the growth has occurred. It also talks about median age, race and ethnicity, the households, population summaries, income, and how, and it's extraordinarily detailed, and how things have changed over time. And there were some highlights that were given on how our community has made some significant changes in terms of our median income has grown. Our centers are like, and then there was a discussion in the retail marketplace profiles in the city, and that very informative as well that Hannah gave us. So we were really, and I hope all the council members had a chance to look over the report that was given to us by Hannah at that time. And if anybody would like, I'm sure that we could get, our city manager could ask Hannah to come and give a presentation to all of council and give us that report, which was really, really good. We also discussed, and that took out the greatest portion of our time, but then we talked about things like trying to get make sure our website is as user-friendly as it can be, and so that interactivity with developers who are seeking to come here, people who are looking to move here, or just our local citizens who want to find out more about our city, how we can make everything more not only user-friendly, but also more informative. So great kudos to staff who have already worked tirelessly to improve, and Amanda, I see you here, so thank you for your work, and Casey and others in getting the website improved over time. But I think we want to constantly see what can we do to make it better and work to do that. So those are some of the topics that we discussed, and we are going to continue to look at the corridors and continue to look at how we can work with the development community and partnerships to move our city forward. Did I miss anything, Councilwoman Barnes or Councilman Schofield? No. That's the report from the Business Development Committee.
Thank you. And I did ask Councilwoman Moore, she had a statement that she could state it under the Business Committee. Did you have any statements concerning?
What do you mean about the,
Yes, ma'am.
no, that's okay.
All right. Next, we will have our report from the Community Development Committee Chairperson.
Our committee, I don't have much to report this month. We are, I guess, fine-tuning and getting the CDC committee out of our hands. We were busy doing that, and we're looking forward to some other things that we will meet in our upcoming meeting. However, there is one thing. We had one person that could not fulfill the duties on the committee, and so I would like to ask council to allow us to put in the alternate, which his name is Terrence Thomas. Somebody said they would not be able to do it.
I would think that since we didn't have this action item, she could submit those, that name for the next meeting. Is that correct, Attorney?
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow it. This is a member of the,
CDC that we formed.
one of the
Board members cannot do it, and so we wanted to put in, one of the alternates that we had listed.
So this is someone who literally said, I'm sorry, I can't perform.
Yes.
I can't do that.
Yes.
In that case, I wanted to make sure that we weren't removing someone
no.
or something, and that's what I was trying to make sure of.
No.
Yes, if someone has declined being appointed, then it will be up to council, since council appoints that initial board. It'll be up to council to appoint a replacement for that person. I think it can either be done today, or council can ask that they look back at the list of people and do it at the next meeting. Either way could be done.
So can I make a motion, or are we still discussing?
No, you said that you have that option.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Terrence Thomas to.
We have our first and second for the appointment of Terrence Thomas to the CDC board. Do we have any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Mr. Terrence Thomas has been appointed to the CDC. Councilwoman, do you have any?
That's it.
All right. At this time, thank you for that report. At this time, we will have a report from our Marketing and Public Relationship Committee. Chair.
Yep, so thank you. I don't have much to report on the last meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Bailey and Councilman Braddock, we all were there, and we basically just was continuing our discussion from the prior month regarding annexation and the process of what it takes to get trying to get our city to 50,000 in a smart growth type of way over the next 5 to 10 years. How we can get there in a sustainable way. So that's all the report we have for council this morning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we're going to have an executive session, and it would be a personnel matter for 30-4-7A1. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
So moved.
We have a motion this second. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. We are returning from executive session at this time. No objection, we proceed into meeting, and we just returned from executive session where there was no votes or any action taken at that time. But at this time, we are back in session, and we have our report from Personnel Committee of Staff from our chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this time, based upon our committee, which consists of me, Councilman Braddock, as well as Councilwoman Moore, we have done an extensive evaluation of our city manager as well as the full council. He has a rating above satisfactory, and based upon our conversations, we want to increase his salary based upon our conversations discussed in executive sessions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Let the record reflect that we have approved the changes as noted by our committee in reference to our city manager. If that completes agenda, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. We stand adjourned.